So we are beginning, as I mentioned, the second unit of the course CE629, Geosynthetics. The second unit is now titled as Geotextiles, and we are looking at initially the fundamentals of testing, why we need the testing, what kind of aspects we are interested in finding out to make it suitable, amenable for different functions and applications. So first of all, we need to do the testing for a quality control. What do you mean by quality control? We are going to use so much quantity of this material. Sometimes, each number of rolls could be hundreds of rolls. So many lorry rolls we are going to use it now. And we ought to know whether the quality maintained during the production at the factory, and then is the quality maintained during construction. Two things are there: quality control during production, and then during construction. And this is called manufacturing quality. MQC is what the name we use for production. That means manufacturing quality. And then CQC is a word which we use, quality, construction quality control. We should also remember that when we are saying quality control, the quality control is outdated. It is actually quality assurance. That means we do the quality control by conducting certain tests now and seeing that limits are there. But at the end of the day, when we put all the data together now, is it good or not is what we have to see. We will see how exactly this will be done. Particularly when you study all these tests now. Same way now, we are looking at CQC initially, that means construction quality control, and from where we emerge to the construction quality assurance. That means the construction quality is going to ensure that the design structure, when design 50 years, 100 years, or whatever time it is going to be, it is going to function all this design life period. That is the most important thing. Then we need to understand whether the particular geosynthetic is suitable for a given application. What do you mean given application now? Well, we'll say that I want to do, say, for drainage now. Now, what is preferred material? For drainage, we'll put a geogrid, or we'll put a oven geotextile. No, we have already seen that certain kind of geosynthetics are good for certain function. What is the function now? If you are thinking of a function like a filtration drainage now, we've seen that probably a non-oven geotextile will perform this function. So that means the selection of this initial selection itself is going to be based upon the application, and in the application, what function it's going to perform. Then, of course, we have to compare the products for selection. That means when once we give a tender, let us say, how we are going to compare the products now? Is it only by the cost? Is it, normal balance, we say L1, L2 lowest and next lowest and all, L1, L2 like this? Or is it also going to be the performance or the parameters they are going to look at now? For example, a particular material could be similar, but one product could be having higher parameter, let's say higher strength parameter, or it will be more stiffer now. So then we can compare them effectively actually. Sometimes, when you talk of even geogrids also, we talk of actually how much strength we get for every gram or every kilogram of material. That's a very interesting point. Maybe when Venkatraman talks to you about that, he will tell you how we convert a raw material into a strength material or a reinforced material, and what are the parameters which you have to consider before evaluating its suitability or selection for a particular function. Then, of course, we have to also evolve a specification for function. That means when we are trying to say that a particular material has got a given strength, let us say the strength of a particular material of a geogrid is going to be 100 kilonewton per meter. What is the strength now? In a normal parlance, it's going to be the ultimate tensile strength. Now, this ultimate tensile strength may come, let us say, 10% strain. Now, can we allow the 10% strain in our structure? No, obviously. That means if you are going to allow 10% strain now to generate the full strength now, what's going to happen now? The wall is going to tilt actually. So we can't allow that much deformation. So either we have to pick up a material which is going to stiff enough, or we control the allowable strength by saying that, Bhaiya, I will not take the 10% strain result, ultimate result. I will only take what is the strength coming out at 2% or 1%. So that means we are suitably selecting a product basically on the functional requirement, how it's going to perform during the, as I said, design life of the structure now. So that's why we have to be quite clear on specification now. So we find that these four are the most important things when you go for geosynthetic testing, and later we'll say evaluation now. For doing this, we got four different kind of, I should say, characteristics or properties. One, of course, is the physical properties, and the second is mechanical properties. Third is the construction survivability, or sometimes today we call as installation damage. And then, of course, durability. Once everything is done properly, is it going to be durable for the design life of the structure? So these are the four things which are going to be important for us. And there are many, what you call factors or parameters which are going to do for this evaluation. If you look at physical properties, thickness of the geosynthetic, the mass per unit area, and the opening size. We'll discuss all them in great detail today. And also, though we give importance to the physical characteristics like this now, we also think of what is the chemical nature. At least we are not going to necessarily do any testing ourselves. That means in a laboratory. But when in doubt, you have to send it to a laboratory, which is a polymer kind of laboratory. For example, right in Ahmedabad, there is something called CPET. That means Center for Polymer Technology or something. I think CPET is called. So the CPET is a wonderful institution wherein they can do the paper testing. For all I know, even IT Gandhinagar has got these facilities. I don't know whether they're doing commercially or not now. So the point is that now we have to evaluate in some cases. Initially, we always believe or trust the manufacturer, but then when you're doing a large project now, it's worthwhile sending the specimen to a renowned laboratory or renowned IIT and then get evaluated of the total composition. Then, of course, what is also important for us is what is the roll width, what is the roll length, what is the roll weight. This is important for us in many different ways. As we keep going, we'll find out how important they are. The next thing is, of course, what kind of testing we are going to do in each one of them now. The kind of testing which we are going to look at could be what we call as index testing. This is a very important parameter. What is index testing? It's something like, not necessarily, something like classification. Classification, we are getting liquid limit, we are getting plastic limit, we are going to say the sandy soil, we are going to say clay silt. So all that is giving you some idea of correlations. This here is not exactly like that now. It is quite possible that we may not be able to test in the realistic sense. So we simplify the testing procedure in such a way that it is amenable for routine testing. So that is called index testing. From index testing also, we may use it for classification, we may use for using correlations, but also sometimes we pick up a particular value for our designs now. And then, of course, there are specific tests meant for obtaining the design parameters. That means finding out flow rate, finding out the damage and things like that. So there are many tests which are going to have for design parameters now. Which are directly used now. Here, establishment is done now. And other class of testing could be in isolation or confined. So what we normally by doing testing is, for example, you test steel now. We are going to test a steel rod or steel strip or whatever it is. But in this case, what we try to say is that we are going to test the geostric in isolation. That means just the geostric alone. Now, this may not be always giving us good result. For example, if you are finding out the permeability of the material, well, we can do it in isolation. But then the permeability will come to picture for assessing the drainage and filtration when it is confined on soil on both sides. So when it's confined by soil now, it's quite possible that some of the openings or some of the small holes which are going to be there are going to be closed, are going to be clogged by the soil. So then this initiation value will at best become an index value, but it's not going to give us the design value. So that is something we have to keep in mind. So in some instances, confined testing is going to be very important. Now, for example, confinement may not be necessary in finding out the strength, because strength is so high that confining in soil may not be necessary in this case. Finally, whenever we evolve a kind of mechanism, whenever we evolve a design philosophy, we will conduct actual tests. For example, we want to design a wall, you got a new system. We have to, people who have done work on that, several universities and several laboratories around the world have done actual testing. I mean, actual testing really doesn't mean that we're going to test a 35-meter wall, but at least a few meters. 10 meters is kind of system we're going to use. So that means you make a model of a full-size model, more or less. If not full size, at least sufficiently big size, so that we are able to measure the parameters and then check the theories which are made now. Okay, so that's called prototype testing now. So whenever we evolve a new system, we can say new part of the system, which we'll see what are those things which have to check up now, it becomes necessary for us to prototype testing. For example, we were trying to develop through IIT, Mohan and Prashant and our group now, we thought that we'll develop a new way of new design methodology now. Now, we can always make a new design methodology based upon our experience and based upon our studies, but then we have to prove it to the world now. What is required now? We have to conduct a large size testing, which is the prototype testing, and also we have to prove it by conducting, by constructing a real wall or real structure, and then see the performance. That means this is a stage now. We do some initial studies now, we do a laboratory model, almost full size, and then we also consider the field now. Then we evolve a methodology and which should be more economical than the existing systems. When you look at the second class of testing, which is called as mechanical characteristics, what is it we are going to get now? We want three kinds of parameters. One is the tensile strength, particularly when you're using this in a reinforced wall structure, like a reinforced wall or a reinforced slope. What is more important for us is the strength of the material. So how do you get the strength of the material? In the good old days, particularly when it was just the subject has just started in its initial stages now, there is a test called a narrow strip tensile strength test. Now, narrow strip tensile strength meant really that we are going to test, based upon the specifications of different countries, ASTM and BS and things like this. They were testing anywhere, or German also. They were testing a specimen which could be as, I can say, narrow as 25 millimeters or 50 millimeters. This specimen was quite long, maybe 75 meters, 75 centimeters, 75 millimeters or something like that now. So with that kind of specimen, that means the width being 25 to 50 millimeters and the length being, this is all within grip now, being 75 millimeters, it was called narrow strip now. Now in our case, we are using full width, maybe 5 meters width sample now. How correct it is going to be to test this kind of small specimens and then extend this logic to such wider widths. And also what we are going to do, what has been done earlier in the early days was that this is subjected to this loading, the rate of loading, which is very high. Now, in our cases, we got a kind of static load, except when we're talking of seismic forces now. So we can't really say that suddenly you do the testing now, because that was a narrow strip tensile testing. It was for quality control in the early days. So then there are people, we'll come to that later, people who said, bhaiya, this is not good now, let us conduct tests on very wide samples now. So there is a gentleman, let's say Bernard Miles, he has done a lot of tests on the various kinds of geotextiles. In those days, both woven and non-woven needle bench material. And what they have done is they have tested specimens of different widths actually, the specimen widths up to 1 meter, 1000 millimeters. And also they had various kinds of length, grip length of the specimen now. With all the things, they found that the strength of the material is widely varying if you simply change the length and width of the sample. So what is the ultimate value? Ultimate value, they said, is, we should use 1 meter width. Now, when you say 1 meter width of the sample, and if the capacity of this is going to be, say, 1000 kilonewtons now, that means we need to test, test equipment which has got that 1000 kilonewtons capacity. This is not available at most laboratories at all. So they said, we can't test this 1000 millimeters width sample, wide sample. Let us narrow it down now. We will see that pilot test is now called as wide width test now. So it is a representative test now. Indirectly, it is an index test now. But this value is used by all of us as the design value. Okay. Then, of course, we already said that creep is going to be very important for us now. And when you have grids or nets, we need to find out the junction strength now, because junctions are very critical in transferring the load from one unit to other unit, or one aperture, other aperture. And then we also had, in some cases, where particularly if you are using geotextiles, we have to also stitch them together now. So what is seam strength? Though this is not very common now, but then sometimes that is required. So these are all the characteristics which come under mechanical properties, which are related to tensile strength behavior. The second kind of mechanical properties is the interface friction. After all, friction and tension are paramount, are basic principles on which we design the structure. About this, we will come to in the class I am going to start with, the principles of reinforced soils. So without the friction now, we can't construct structure. For any structure to perform now, we need both the tensile strength and then the friction, which is going to be coming into picture to transfer the earth pressure onto the geosynthetic now. So interface friction is very important. So for this, in the beginning, people said we can use our same direct shear apparatus, which you can modify for our purpose now, and then said, okay, we'll use a modified direct shear test now. Initially, they said we'll use a small laboratory direct shear box that is 60 by 60 millimeters. And then they said, this is not sufficient. Nowadays, we conduct this test on at least 300 by 300 millimeters. That is large direct shear box. We use it, but it's modified in a different way, such that we get the interface friction now. The other test is that one group of people felt that one modified direct shear test now, there is a box which is filled, which is made into inactive kind of thing. Over that, the geo is placed, and then over that, the second half of the box is placed, and then one is moving with this other one. That means the geosynthetic actually is kind of static, and the soil is moving over this now. They said it's not going to happen in the field. In the field, what may happen is that the geosynthetic may be pulled out basically. So to represent this case, there is another way of testing we have done that is called a pull-out test now. So today, of course, we need both of them because the way in which the geosynthetic behave in a rainfall structure, we need both these values actually. There are cases like a GCL when the actual strength values are going to be very, very low, or strength values, I mean, the angle of shear resistance. And now in normal soil, yes, we have angles which are more than 30 degrees usually. Whereas when you think of a GCL, what is the angle of shear resistance of a bentonite clay? It will be hardly few degrees. It may be 3, 4, 5, 6 degrees. So you can't use this or regular equipment for this now. And for this, there is another test which is called as inclined plane test, which is very similar to in the school days you would have seen that there is a inclined plane on which we keep this entire material and then allow it to slide at different angles. The angle at which is going to slide is what is called as the angle of shear resistance. So that we'll see when it comes to landfills. So then the third and most important characteristic is when we are using the geocentric for hydraulic function. What is hydraulic functions now? It is going to be filtration and drainage. So we know that in the non-woven needle punch materials in general, there could be flow along the plane. That is called inflow plane, flow. And then if the flow is going to be across the geosynthetic, across the geotextile, it is a normal flow now. So in plane flow, normal flow, there are two characteristics now. So we can find out the permeability of the geotextile in both the directions, along the plane and across the plane now. To distinguish between these two things, the geosynthetic researchers created two designations called transmissivity and permittivity. Transmissivity representing the in-plane flow, permittivity is representing the normal flow, and in both the cases now, this nomenclature has come because they're made non-dimensional. We'll go into that. When we go into that, we'll see how they're made non-dimensional because thickness of the material comes into picture, and by that process, they made it non-dimensional. Then, of course, also when I'm looking at long-term conditions of the flow, is it going to get choked or not? Is it going to be all the openings are going to be buried or something in the close? Is what we have to assess now. For that, the classical test is going to be gradient ratio and long-term flow. When we come to these characteristics, is important. So what we find is that now the two common things are going to be the transmissivity in plane flow and permittivity in normal flow. And most common is whenever we are using for drainage condition, we need long-term flow. And gradient ratio is also important, but then it's not as common as these things. Now, after having done this entire work now, we have designed a geocentric for use. When we start placing it in the soil, then it's likely that due to construction operations, it may get punctured. If somebody puts a stone on that, and naturally the geotextile covering over that is going to be got a hole or something like that now. So the puncture is going to cause a disruption of the entire fabric, and naturally it will not perform in the same way. So all these tests, which you'll see in great detail later, will be puncturing, and using a CBR plunger. This is called CBR push through. There's a burst test similar to bursting of a balloon or a ball, and then the cone drop test. There's a tear test. So all of them are either some similar to our tests which are going to do in road aggregates, or tests which have been developed earlier for textile use, the material, and then of course which we modified later by introducing materials like CBR cone and things, CBR plunger and things like this now. Also in cases of railways and road applications, it is quite possible that the geotextile will be abraded now. So abrasion also will be found quite easily. Again, using one of the procedures which are done for textile material, and that is chosen for abrasion studies on the geosynthetic. Then, of course, after having done all the exercise now, we took all the care in construction, and we said that, okay, we are going to follow construction procedure such that the selection of geosynthetic is going to be right now. Then, is it going to perform its function, or is the structure going to stable for the design life now? So, if it is by chance, I suppose, naturally we have to assess private stability. And as I said already, it is going to be with in pavement structures, wherein in bituminous pavement structures, naturally thermal stability. And if it is going to be a natural fiber geotextile, that is a jute and coir, then algae and fungi are known to be causing damage to this. So it will be biological degradation now. So chemical degradation, biological degradation, ultraviolet degradation, thermal degradation, all of them will be studied basically in durability. So we want to assess from all these angles now. What did we say? Initially, we had physical characteristics. Then we said design characteristics. Design was really the strength and the friction and, of course, the permeability. And then we said damage we'll take care of. Then we said we'll take the long-term performance. So if you consider all these aspects now, we will arrive at, once our design procedure is finalized, we will arrive at a way in which we conduct this test and put limits on these values. So every time when we specify now, one was definitely regarding all those three things we said, mechanical, and then other things also are going to come into test now. So when we specify a material geotest, geosynthetic now, we have all the whole list of things, whole list of the parameters and the range which are going to allowed now, and of course the permissible variation in that now, and all these are very special characteristics which are going to say. And I can also tell you that normally we don't just average it like that. We have a system called maximum or minimum average roll value. So there is a way in which we are going to pick up the material based upon these average values, and also there is a way in which we can reject these material also, and there is a way in which we are also going to make payment for these materials which are supplied by appropriate testing now. So all of them are going to be involved in this, in the entire gamut of geosynthetic testing and evaluation and construction and payment also. So for this now, for obtaining the specifications, what is that we have to do? The specifications are going to be based upon the design procedures. We will see day after tomorrow or in the next class. There are procedures which are given by BS. There are procedures are given by the Federal Highway Administration. There are procedures given by our own Indian courts also, Indian Standards Institution, Bureau of Indian Standards. So then which one you are going to do? Because each one will have its understanding of the material in the country. So they are given some range of values which we use now for obtaining the parameters now. Then based upon that design and what are limiting values to adopt in design, that means what the maximum values you can choose. And then procedures for transporting, storing and handling, because they may get damage during transportation also. If a material like coir geotextile may get damage during storing also. And if you handle them inappropriately, there is a problem there also. Then we have, of course, construction internal procedures. Then we have limitation values for the purpose of quality control. So you find that now all these aspects are controlled by values, ultimately controlled by values. So in this case now, we'll have to go back to standardization of things. What does standardization mean? That we are going to use, let us say, thousands of square meters material. And we already said that the material will come in rolls, let us say 200 meter long, and it will come in widths of at least around 5 meters. Some of them rarely could be 10 meters also. So how many samples are going to pick up now? How many rolls are going to pick up now? So this is given by statistical understanding of this now, for which even sampling has been properly. So primary properly means now, in a huge project like an Nathalam or a huge road for say 25 kilometers, we are going to see number of rolls. Isn't it? Let us say we require 1,000 rolls now. Now these 1,000 rolls are coming at one go or coming as you proceed with construction now. Now are they made in one simple lot or are they made at different times now? So lot, that is called a lot now. A full production run or number of rolls per entire job site. Full production run means, okay, they must be making a lot of rolls actually, thousands of rolls, using the same resin. Everything is remaining same now. A full production run may mean they are making 1,000 rolls. So if I am going to pick up 100 rolls only out of the entire production run, so for me, that will become a lot. Okay, now if my requirement is going to be, let's say, 2,000 rolls now, it can't be one production run, it will be two runs actually. So what do you mean now? We are going to have two lots which are going to pick up. From those two lots, we are going to pick up specimens now. Two lots of rolls from two production units, we are going to take up now. Production runs, we are going to take up now. And then from selected, we'll see how to work on selection now. From that roll, let us say specific roll now, it will tell you, I mean, the statistically will be told that if you are going to use 1,000, naturally, how many rolls are going to pick up? Let me say that it's 10 rolls now. From each of these roll, out of the each of the 10, from each of them, we are going to pick up a sample. A sample means a small section sent to laboratory for testing. It's called a swatch actually. So that means we are going to send, let's say, full width. I will say that 1.5 meters. So that is called a sample. Okay. In some cases, particularly for membrane, we send it for incubation. So we are not worried about coupon, but we are worried about actual specimen which are going to test now. No, normally sample is what is picked up for a testing, general testing. From the sample, we are going to make specimens for our actual testing. So that is the exact dimension for the test. Depending upon the test now, we got the grip size and we have to put them in the grip now also, or we have to hold them appropriately. So all of them will make actually a specimen now. So specimen gives you exact dimension for the test method to be used taken from sample or coupon. That means from this or from this now we are going to pick up these things now. So from a lot, we are going to identify number of rows required statistically, and from these rows that are prescribed now, we pick up samples, and from these samples, we are going to obtain specimens. Now, how many specimens are going to test now? I can just tell you offhand that if you want to find out the wide strip tensile strength of a roll now, we are going to conduct at least 10 tests. That means we are going to have 10 specimens from that now. Okay, it will tell you what are the testing numbers which are going to do. In a separate class, I will tell you that now. So for our own understanding now, what we said, we are going to have the roll and just open the roll. Like, when you go to a textile shop, he'll just open one roll. We call than actually. So he'll open one roll and then we got the end of it. One end of it we are going to pick up now. And of course, we remove the edge portions and then pick up a specimen, pick up a sample. So the sample we already mentioned will be usually anywhere from 1.5 to a few meters more. And full width you are going to pick up now. And in this full width now, if you spread this entire thing like this now, we are going to take specimens in the longitudinal direction and also in the transmission direction. Longitudinal means mission direction and also transmission direction. So we are going to spread them if you see along the length and breadth of the sample we are going to pick up now. And in both directions, because the strength may vary and properties may vary in the direction and the direction also. So we pick up samples in the cross mission direction and in the mission direction now. So we'll see that is done. And also we are ensuring that the edge is simply not taken into consideration, it's simply cut off. And then this longitudinal edge now is called selvage. If you just go to any shop now, you'll find particularly for suitings now, the edges look different. The edges are made based upon the way in which the weaving process is going. That means based upon the weaving technology or machines which are going to use weaving machines, the edge is there. So that edge also is called selvage. So we will not take specimens on the selvage now. We have to leave about 5 to 10 centimeters from both edges and also maybe at least 10 50 centimeters from this end of the sample, and only from the central portion covering the entire width and entire length as we chosen is going to be our samples. Okay, so why you want to do so many specimens now? We have to obtain the minimum or maximum average value. We'll talk more on this actually. That's why we have to take number of specimens. So then, other thing is that these are materials which are subjected to temperature changes. I mean, whose properties will depend upon the temperature which are going to be there. We already said that if you are going to do creep testing, creep is of course a function of temperature. Higher the temperature, more creep. And then if dust is going to come when you're doing pyramid test now, naturally, they'll be getting clogged. So we find that we have to maintain certain standards, and these standards are usually ISO standards. Usually, everybody follows ISO. Now, ASTM is not being used. Very commonly now, ISO standards are the ones which are most commonly used. And so we need to maintain a standard laboratory environment. We need to maintain standard laboratory cleanliness. We need to have standard laboratory sample procedures. We need to have, obviously, specialized lab equipment. We'll see the need of this. It's not ordinary equipment, special equipment. And then, of course, we also need specialized hydraulic requirements now. What do you mean hydraulic requirements now? After all, when the flow is going to be so much higher compared to soil in a nano-geotextile, the flow is going to be so high, we need to see that there are no air bubbles in that. We need to maintain the temperature appropriately. And that means we need a conditioned water basically. So we need a special system of supplying proper water and large quantity of water because the permeability is so high, or the transmissivity and permeability are so high that we need large quantities of water coming very fast. And how to collect it and all is an issue, which we'll see as we keep going. So this laboratory is obviously, I will say, the air conditioned. And like in a computer room, we'll go without chapel and maintain the cleanliness, maintain the environment now. And outside, of course, we cut this specimens, things like that now. There are certain tests wherein we are not worried about temperature changes, like mass spectrometry area and things like this. But then there are cases which we have to, there are tests which we have to do within the laboratory itself now. So these are the general conditions we have to maintain. So one thing we have to really see is that these are all controlled conditions as approved by the ISO. So I can just add, by the way, that whatever testing we are going to do, let us say none of the laboratories in all IITs, including the laboratory developed at IIT Delhi, is not maintained under these conditions. So when you don't maintain the conditions now, these laboratories are meant essentially for testing, evaluation, understanding, research, but it is not going to give the perfect value. So that's why accreditation is a very important feature in all the testing for geosynthetics now. So we can always get a machine, put it somewhere wherever we want now, conduct a test now. That will not become a test as per ISO. It has to be certified by ISO. That means we have to meet all these conditions, the environment, that means the relative humidity, the temperature, everything else is going to be very important for our testing. So that's why accreditation appropriately is going to be very important now. So we already said that these are the four things which we are going to look at now. So let us look at polymer identification. I'm not getting into polymer identification now because that is really not the subject we're interested in getting into that now. So what is that other things now? We already said geometrically we need thickness. And if it's a grid, we are going to look at opening size and pitch dimensions, which we are not going to do because today we are going to start discussing geotest cells and the mass spent area and the opening size. So let us quickly, they are very simple tests now, but we have to follow what exactly we are trying to do. This is, of course, a DSC, differential scattering calorimetry, and by which can identify the peaks and from which we can say this particular peak is PP. So we're not worried about that. So the definition of mass spent area, which is expressed in normally grams per square meter, which is called a GSM usually. So the mass spent area is one of the most often used characteristic values, giving the price creating mass of the raw material. What do you mean by this now? In a given range of products, that means if you think of a needle punch normal geotest cell now, higher the mass spent area, higher is going to cost. Why? Because that much mass is going to be there, the raw material in the product now, in the specimen you're going to have now. So then the process charges are going to be there. So higher the thickness, higher the mass spent area, higher thickness also, we find that the cost is going to move. We have to be very clear on what is it we are going to pick up, why you are picking up this value. That value is based upon the further testing. So specimens are cut preferably with a circular cutter. The number depends upon the specimen size, minimum 3, each 100 centimeters square to a maximum of 10 specimens, and then weight to accuracy of 0.001 grams and calculate the mass spent area. Now this is exactly, this better weighing balance is going to be what we use in our soil laboratory. So those are quite good. So we have to cut specimens and then a minimum 10, but otherwise 10 is good, and we find out the mass and then correct it per unit area, that means meter square. We are going to do that now. So the specimens, this is an earlier slide, we can cut of different shape based on different codes now, and we are going to weigh this and find out. Even this kind of testing machine, which is just a balance only, these days international standards require that these are automatically recorded now. I should say that in Hindi, there no hierarchy should be done now. That's why, because payment is based upon this only. At least the initial payment is made upon this. So we have to be quite clear on automation of all this equipment. Even a simple thing is a balance now. The other thing we are going to require is thickness of this now. Now the thickness is going to give us actually the typical range of properties which we call as filtration and drainage. So what is we are going to do? We can hold, I think you have held this by hand, the nanogeotest style. If you hold it between fingers, you can compress them in the fingers itself. So what kind of thickness are going to get out of this now? If you just compress like this now, we can't do this. So that is why, as a standard now, what they said is the thickness we are going to get at 2 kilopascals is the thickness. So you see that there is a base plate in this equipment now. We got a specimen here now, and there is a what you call a pressure plate. Okay, so this plate is placed, and then we find out, of course, the relative readings now. So difference between initial value when no geometry is there and when geometry introduced, the difference is going to give us the thickness. Thickness is going to be measured at a pressure of this pressure foot. So this pressure is going to give us 2 kilopascals actually. Okay, so we can do as per EN 964 for a single what you call thickness or single place. And if it is multi-layered, we have to find out from part 2. Multi-layer means a composite can come also there. Okay, in those cases it will be slightly different now, but for the single layer thickness it is to be 2 kilopascals now. And this plate itself is so made that it has got 25 centimeters square area. Okay, now once we got the thickness now, what is the other things we have to look at now? We can also look at compressibility, though we're not part of this now. Now, if we got a thickness, let us say some thickness, let us say 1 millimeter thickness at 2 kilopascals, that is different thickness now. If by some chance is going to decrease thickness from 1 millimeter to 0.5 by applying, let's say, 15 kilopascals, it's going to compress heavily. This compress heavily, naturally, the pore size is going to get reduced now. The permeability and filtration characteristics is going to change now. So then we, particularly when we are going to really place this in a soil system at different water bottom pressures, it becomes important for us to understand the compressibility of this also. So we have equipment now wherein we apply, at least in the beginning of our studies on this now, we applied 2 kilopascals, not only 2 kilopascals, but also 10, 20, 30, and like that, so that we understand the compressibility of this material. Now, for example, if you change this pressure which you are going to apply for a woven geotextile, what's going to happen now? Nothing is going to happen. It's not compressible. Only a non-woven is going to be compressible now. So compressibility studies are needed if you are using non-woven geotextile, because its compressibility is going to be compressible, means that its characteristics for subsequent placement in the soil at different organ pressures is going to be changing the behavior continuously. So that is what we have to keep in mind. So that is the second thing. So these two tests are very easy. The third characteristic is to define what is opening size. In the earlier classes, I have shown you under electron microscope view that the opening size and shape are different for all the geotextiles. Okay, so and because of this variation only, we found that it will work very well as a filter also. So for this, now what does it do? Because they are not even visually seen also. So we can conduct a sieve test kind of thing. And in this case now, we can conduct a wet sieve test, we can conduct dry sieve test, we can do many ways of trying to look at now. So what is it we are going to do is that we are going to conduct test in a reverse way. In a normal sieve, what is it we are going to do? In a normal test, what is it we are going to do? In a normal sieving test in laboratory, we have set of sieves now, and each sieve has got opening size. And so the smaller size is going to place at the bottom, largest opening size is placed at the top now, and to place a amount of dye soil, and then of course shake it and find out the size retained on each of these seeds now. Okay, from that you get a glacial distribution curve. In this case, we are just going to reverse way now. So the sieve frame will open up now, and whatever is contained in that, the actual sieve, the metallic sieve, we replace by placing a geotextile there now. So once you place a geotextile now, naturally we can now find out the opening sizes distribution that now by placing what we call as glass beads. What are glass beads now? Glass beads are the ones from molten glass you drop in water now. What happens is we get only few purely spherical beads actually. The paper spherical beads are glass beads now. So we can place different kind of different ranges of particle size of glass beads and then get actually the opening size distribution basically. But these beads are very expensive, very, very expensive. And sometimes they get also clogged in the geotextile. There are a lot of difficulties with respect to that now. So what is it we are going to do? We define, instead of using soil now, instead of using these glass beads now, we use the soil, which is nothing other than a crushed sand. Okay, so the soil or this glass beads they are passing the geotextile is what is done now. Just I'll come back on this after showing this to you. So we got this container, let us say. At the bottom, there is a mesh just to hold the geotextile. And now we place that glass beads or known type of soil size particles. And then we place actually, we have a spray of water in this now. So when you are spraying, obviously, we are ensuring that the finer particles are going to go through and these are collected in a funnel and then with a naturally a filter kind of thing now. So we find out now, based upon the particles are in place, how much is retained, how much is passing through. And by this process, repeatedly for different size particles, we can find out what is called the opening size distribution. So what means opening size distribution now? O90 really means actually is similar to D90 of the soil passing through the geosynthetic now. So that is what we say. And we call it now O90 and O10, we can say many things now. So the tests are done according to other standards using single grade soil sand or glass layers, because the problem with the glass beads is going to be that they get stuck in the geotextile also because of the antistatic behavior of the material. So that's why to prevent that we are using grade soil also or test sand appropriately. So we are trying to get a distribution now. In this case, this is the size of the beads basically, cumulative percentage passed, and this is the percentage now. And what is it we are going to look at is we are going to look at this entire thing now And in this case, what we find is that O90 is 186 microns now. So the cumulative of the granular material passed through the specimen is going to be O90 or O10, whatever we try to place it now. That means 90% passing through is what is there. 10% retained on the C top actually. So 10% retained, 90% passing is what we are going to get for each size actually. And that's how we get this entire curve now. So what is it we are going to get? We are going to get a opening size distribution. In a normal soil, we are getting a particle size distribution. That's why it's reverse sieving is called actually. Here we are getting opening size distribution, and in the normal soil, we are getting a particle size distribution now. It's just a reverse phenomenon we are going to use by using the basis system. In this case, we are using particles of known size and sieving through geotextile of unknown size openings. So we are reversely doing this entire exercise, and that is what we did. So on this, I mentioned earlier also, we have brought out a book long back. I think in 2008 when I moved to Hyderabad, we brought out this book along with my then student, Mr. Gautam Bothal, Dr. Gautam Bothal. He is in, of course, Odisha now, Indira Gandhi Institute of Technology. And this book actually has got a lot of things in great detail. So initially, of course, it talks of whatever I already mentioned in the unit 1 and the need for testing, as I mentioned to you, and then how to prepare the samples, collection, and everything else now, atmosphere, specimen condition, things like this now, and how to test whatever we discussed, basis of properties, mechanical properties, all kind of things are mentioned here, and construction survivability, hydro properties, paving fabric conditions, and also geogrid testing. Like this, it tells you actually all methods of testing required for successful performance and successful design and successful durable structures in these things now. So it is the first book of its kind now. A few copies are there with IIT Gandhinagar, maybe one of the library, and you should at least flip through the pages now because it tells you for a practitioner as also a student now what is the way in which it is the process has to be followed because this is the crux of the entire geophysics industry. This is the crux of the entire geophysics performance. And if you don't understand this, naturally, we will not be able to go further because every design we are going to finally specify property, specify a parameter now. So the whole game is actually in trying to find out what are the correct geosynthetics and then what are the performance studies or what is specification and what is the values now as per the international codes, as per the codes prevalent in the country, and of course based on your experience of success or failure in different cases. So all of them are contained in this now. This book was only brought out in 2008 when I moved to Hyderabad. We had a symposium wherein it was inaugurated release and then distributed. And subsequently, year before last, we brought out a second edition of this book actually by introducing other tests which are not included in this. This because the modernization keeps happening. It's 10 years, more than 10 years, but then still it becomes valuable book. I find it being used almost all the laboratories. But then, if you want to do commercial testing, one has to always refer to the basic code. So, what is the basic code and all? We'll come to when we start understanding the first aspect of it now. So, at this juncture, I have just to introduce what is the importance of testing, and then the need for testing, and then what are the various things which are going to do. In which today we discuss physical properties, and then day of tomorrow. Another issue will start on what to do with these things with respect to geotextiles. Or later, when I go to geogrids, we'll see what testing is required on geogrids, both flexible and rigid. Like this, we keep moving from one material to other material. Then we'll first discuss the test methods for that now, test and evaluation. Evaluation will come when we start designing actually. Okay. So I just gave you overview of all these things now and started physical and other things are going to be covered as we go across now. Any clarification, doubts you want to seek at this juncture? You're welcome. The only thing I want to add before we close today is that all these tests are quite simple. Okay, you have to remember the philosophy behind this to begin with, because every time we talk of that now, we say, suppose we are talking of day after tomorrow filtration, we'll say, I use 250 GSM. So if you don't know what is GSM, naturally you are confused. Difference between 250 and 350, you will not know anything about that. So like this actually, or if I say thickness this much now, you should understand these terms are very commonly used basically. Like as common as using silk and cotton or polyester cotton or something like that, the same thing is used continuously. So that's why I spent time and trying to explain the basics of all this testing and only the physical testing which you are going to do. The actual engineering testing is going to come in the next class. Okay. I hope you'll enjoy that lesson also. I'll be also there present. Okay, then see you then.